First of all, I just want to let everyone know that this Zoom meeting is being recorded, so Dart is involved too. So if you have any objections, you can turn off your cameras or just click that little red button on the bottom right corner of your screen. But hopefully everyone's okay with it and everyone stays on board. Hi, everyone. My name is Adam Juratovac. I'm the president of the Santa Clara County Barristers, the premier group for new attorneys in Santa Clara County. And welcome to the Barristers Happy Hour. So now, normally how we introduce ourselves is, this will just be for the barristers. Everyone can go introduce themselves, introduce your name, what type of law you practice field you work in, and where you work at. And then after you get done, that's when you're able to call on another barrister only, and then they're able to introduce themselves as well. So I'll get it started. My name is Adam Juratovac. I'm an employment lawyer at Juratovac Law in San Jose, California. Rosanna.
Hi, I'm Rosanna. I'm a tech trans staff attorney at Fenwick and West, and I'm in San Jose, but the office is in Mountain View. Oh, and Helen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Helen Wong. I work for a family law firm, MTSA, in downtown San Jose. Actually, Judge, our office is just one floor down from your office, probably from James. So I'm just very excited to be here because I'm a fairly new family law attorney and I got a lot to learn. So looking forward to communicate with you all. I think I will call on Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Brower. I'm a staff attorney at Office of Dependency Counsel in downtown San Jose. I'll call on Chris Rosario.
Hi, my name's Chris Rosario. Work at McManus Faulkner. We are trial lawyers, and I in particular work in civil litigation. And I will call Claire.
Hi, everyone. I'm Claire Melahani. I'm Vice President of the Barristers, and I work at Gates, Eisenhart, Dawson, doing general civil litigation. I'll call on Grania.
Hi, everyone. My name is Grania Callan, and I am a solo plaintiff's employment lawyer. And Judge Pichon, I was actually your first day of training at JAMS. I had a mediation with you, and you didn't say 2 words the entire time. So I'm really curious as to what you're going to share with us today. I'm looking forward to hearing you speak. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. Alistair, have you gone? Okay.
Not yet. Hi, everyone. I'm Alistair Shaw. I'm an associate here at Lonich Patton Ehrlich Policastri, family law firm in San Jose. And I will go ahead and pass it to Natasha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Natasha Tran. I work at MTSA, a family law firm in downtown San Jose. I will call on Lynn.
Everyone, I'm Lynn Nguyen. I'm a principal at Schwegman, Lumberg & Wassner. We're an IP patent boutique firm based in San Jose, but I'm a satellite attorney in Brooklyn, New York. So it's rather dark outside now, but I'm happy to be here. I'm going to pass it on to, I haven't gone yet, Iris.
Yeah, and I think since there's only 17 people, I think we can get introductions for everybody. So go ahead.
Okay. Hey, everyone. So my name is Iris, and I'm actually transitioning right now. I'm starting at Berliner Cohen next week. So.
What? Congratulations. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Coming back to the Bay.
Yeah, I'm coming back to the Bay Area. I'm in Fresno still, but I'll be moving my stuff this weekend. So I'm excited to move back. I'm going to pick on Tim.
I knew you would.
I know.
Hi, I'm Tim Zunick, and I'm splitting my time between legal operations consulting for in-house companies, and then I'm also working with a solo practitioner in emerging enterprises. It's called Park Hill Legal. And I'm all new faces. So I don't know if somebody hasn't been called on yet.
Can I help you out, Tim?
That would be great. Thanks, Adam.
All right, Melanie, you want to roll?
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm an associate attorney, just like Chris, at McManus Faulkner, and I practice civil litigation and family law.
All right, Andrew, want to get it next?
Sure, thanks. My name is Andrew Kearns. I work with a company called Big IP. We process multilingual content for a lot of your firms, our international arbitration, patent translations, a variety of legal contract stuff that's leaving the United States, and actually a lot of it inside the United States now with growing multilingual content personnel. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks, Andrew. And Daria.
Hi, yes, I work at Phillips Fallis and Ingstad in civil litigation.
Thanks, Daria. And then last but not least, the one law student in tonight's meeting, Danielle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Bell, and I am a 1L at Hawaii Law. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. I think that's everybody. If that isn't, speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, so I'm just going to use this as a plug. Welcome to the Barristers Virtual Happy Hour. We host these typically once a month, and this is another plug. If you're not a part of the Santa Clara County Bar Association, please join, and please join the Barristers. So without further ado, Rosanna, do you want to take it away?
Okay, sure. So we are welcoming Judge Theresa Pichon, who had a distinguished judicial career for 36 years and is now in her second year of retirement. Although she is retired, she is still working and is currently a mediator and arbitrator for JAMS. She is a graduate of Santa Clara University School of Law and later received an honorary doctorate from Santa Clara as well. Notably, Judge Pichon was the first person of color to be elected and to serve as presiding judge of the Santa Clara County Superior Court. Please welcome Judge Theresa Pichon.
Thank you so much, Rosanna. It's a pleasure to talk with you this evening, and it's really nice to see you all. Thank you for tuning in. I was asked to talk to you this evening about my legal career, some of my more memorable experiences along the way, and tips on good lawyering, and you probably don't need those, but I can tell you some of the things that I've seen over the 36 years on the bench. So first of all, I'm really proud to tell you that as a new attorney, I was a member of the Barristers Committee. Back then we called it the Barristers Club. And I was all set to be the first woman president and the first president of color for the barristers. But then I was hired by the judges of the municipal court to be a commissioner doing traffic and small claims. And so as a judicial officer, I had to give up my bar membership, and that meant all my bar license, or else put it on hold. And then I was not able to stay in the Santa Clara County Bar Association and remain a member of the Barristers group. I really enjoyed the group, and I was really sorry to leave it. I've also served on the committee for professionalism, the committee that wrote the Code of Professionalism. This was sitting as a judge, and as it was basically an ad hoc committee and not necessarily, it was a bar committee, but also it included judges and lawyers. I was honored to serve on that. I served on various county bar committees, including the Women Lawyers Committee. So I have found remembrances of the Bar Association. And now that I'm have my license again, I can be a member again, and I have signed up. So I've always felt that participation on committees at the state and local level is very important. One thing, it adds to the excitement and the enjoyment of your career as a lawyer, and as mine as a lawyer and a judge. And it was a way for me to make new friends. And when it came time for me to apply for a judgeship, I had many people who knew me and supported me just from the Bar Association activities. So I wanted to start by telling you a little bit about my early self so that you can see what was part of my formation as to the person that I am today. Both of my parents were raised in Little Rock, Arkansas. So that's where I say that I'm from, even though my dad was in the Army and I was born in Fort Lewis, Tacoma, Washington. I lived equally in Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, and we moved about every 5 years. And as you can see, we stayed mostly in the South. We had one opportunity to go overseas and live, but it would have been Germany. But at that time, it was 1961 when we were about to go. We were all ready to go. We had all of our vaccinations. And then the Berlin Wall went up and they didn't allow families to travel with the Army personnel. And so my dad went alone and we were separated from him for 3 years. So like San Francisco, travel on the bus was very efficient. You could get where you wanted to go anywhere in the city, and you knew the bus was going to run regularly and get you back and forth. And so in the South, that is how we traveled a lot about the city. And there were no restrictions about where you could go in the city on the bus. But at that time, there were restrictions on where you could be in the bus. And so I came up during that time when they had the colored signs on the buses, and we sat behind the colored signs. I have to say, even though it sounds pretty bad now, that was my life then, and that's just how it was. It didn't make us sad. I mean, I was a kid, so I sat there like everybody else, and it really wasn't something I felt bad about. Now, as far as self-esteem goes, that's not good for self-esteem when you always have to wait and be behind it, as you probably know. My mom did a really, really good job of trying to shelter us, and she did a great job. And as a result, we were a little bit naive when we did grow up. So back then, when I grew up, we had the separate drinking fountains, the separate restrooms, and we also had the separate schools and the separate churches. The separate churches is something that still amazes me today, because I honestly don't understand how come the church couldn't step away and make different decisions about who their parishioners were and who they accepted in which church. There was a church that was very close to us, but we couldn't go to it. We had to go to the Black church, which was fine, but that was like 6 or 7 blocks away, and we were on foot. And in New Orleans, the weather can be very rainy at times. So I remember we did go to the white church a couple of times, but we had to be very careful to be inconspicuous and to sit in the very back rows. And also, we did travel from state to state during that time. And my parents would pack these huge fried chicken lunches. I mean, they were just outstanding and delicious. But I thought everybody traveled like that. And I did not know until I was an adult, I hate to say, we were that sheltered, that I didn't realize that we had those big meals in the car while we were traveling, because we couldn't stop. There was no place we could stop along the way. There were no restaurants that were open to us, and there were no restrooms open to us. And I can tell you, that is the part I hated the most. I never got used to traveling with no accommodations. I found distressing as a child. But anyway, like I said, my mom did the best to give us a happy life and make sure that those things weren't anything that we dwelled on. And so at the time, we didn't even realize they were terrible experiences. What was unusual for us was that both of my parents had college degrees. That was unheard of back then. Both went to a historically Black college and the other historically Black university. And they both graduated, but that did not mean that they could get a job. So one of the reasons my dad chose the Army was so that he could work and support his family. And so we just packed up every 5 years and we moved wherever he received orders to. And I have to tell you, I made many friends in many states, and I have them still now. I did enjoy moving. I don't know how it was for my mom, but we really enjoyed it. So compacting quite a few years, we ended up in California when I was 17. That was my mom's doing. It wasn't my dad's doing. My dad was about to retire, But one of the places where my dad was stationed was Prairie View A&M College. It's now part of the Texas University system. We lived on the campus across the street from the girls' dorm. I have to say, I absolutely adored that because I was a kid watching all of the young college men go back and forth to the girls' dorm, even formed a few crushes back then. But I have to say, it was really a lot of fun. But anyway, my mom got her master's degree while we were at Prairie View. And Ravenswood High School, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was in East Palo Alto, they were looking for African-American teachers. So they came to the college campus, asked about people who would be available to teach and who would be willing to relocate to California. And I can't believe it, my mom said she would, which meant farming out 5 kids until she could get situated. My dad was going to retire in just a few months, so he had to stay behind. And so mom came trekking out here all by herself. That was very brave, but she was a very brave woman. We followed her to California. She put all 5 of us back together again. My dad came a few months later when he retired. And unfortunately, I said that her kids were naive, but so was she. So she picked the exact wrong neighborhood to buy a house in. And so when she moved us all out here and we moved into the house, all of the neighborhood signs went up for sale. So I was already slated to go to Xavier, New Orleans when we moved here. So I only spent the summer here and I left my poor siblings to fend for themselves, of course, with my parents, at the schools here, and they were not welcome. My mom eventually packed them all up and took them with her to Ravenswood in East Palo Alto, which was basically an all-Black school. It's closed now, but when they couldn't be treated well in the schools here in San Jose, my mom just took them with her to Ravenswood High School. So I spent 2 years at Xavier University in New Orleans, and then I transferred to Santa Clara. I finished my 4 years at Santa Clara with a major in mathematics. And then at the end, I decided to go to law school. And I decided to go to law school because my parents had hired a lawyer to help my brother get past the out-of-state fees for San Jose State. And so my mom paid the attorney, and that's the last we heard. So I made my decision at that time to be a lawyer because I said if my family ever has needs again for a lawyer, that I would be the person to handle it and we wouldn't have to depend on anyone else for that. So when I entered law school, I entered as I was rather naive and not knowing what I was in for. I had not done any research about what law school was going to entail. I didn't know any lawyers. But as I say now, perhaps it was better that I did not know, because I probably would have written myself out of the story that I tell you tonight. I'm going to tell you briefly now what the legal profession looked like in Santa Clara County when I joined. That was in 1976. Now, when I tell you things about how it was for me, it was still better than those who came before me, who were women and people of color. So I don't want to act like I was a pioneer, because the people before me had a much more difficult way to go, and they made it possible for me to be here. But I want to tell you there, when I entered the legal profession in Santa Clara County, there were a few women lawyers practicing. There were fewer attorneys of color. And because I'm African American, I can tell you exactly how many African Americans there were at that time. And for the entire county of Santa Clara, there were 10. And we formed the Black Lawyers Association for support for each other and for guidance and to help us navigate the environment. So I was very surprised when I graduated from law school, and I should have known that too, that it was not going to be easy to find a job. And I had a difficult time finding one. But now I'll just go on to my path. I had help, I had support, I had people who looked out for me. And I started in the public defender's office. There were 2 African-American men there, and I became the first woman attorney in the office. And there was one Hispanic woman who was hired at the same time as me. And we banded together and we were best friends. I stayed there for 3 years. And the reason that I left was because I wanted to start a family. I was in court every single day. I was in the jail at night, and I was rarely home. And I thought, well, I can't start a family like this because I want to be able to give my children all of the time that they should have. And so I thought, and plus I wanted to be there anyway because this gave me civil law experience. So I applied at the county counsel's office and was hired there. I loved both jobs, public defender and county counsel. And I only stayed at county counsel for 2.5, maybe 3 years. And I didn't leave because I didn't like the job, because I loved it. But like I tell you, I might be a little naive about what I'm about to do. So I didn't really set goals about what I was about to do. But I was very careful not to pass up any opportunities. And so the opportunity arose where I could be a commissioner at the municipal court. And I was encouraged to apply. I did. I did not get it the first time, but 6 months later, another opening came about. I applied again and I did get it the second time. Again, I had support and I had help. I was never alone. Now, that was a job I didn't like. Okay, I loved my other jobs, but this one was not fun. So I never realized again why I was having such a hard time there. I ran my courtroom well. I knew the vehicle code backward and forward. I was always on time. I always ended on time. 100 cases in the morning, 100 cases in the afternoon. We never went late. But who was I to tell these people that they were guilty of running the red light, of failing to stop for a stop sign, and etc. So I didn't realize why I got so much hate mail, and I got quite a bit. Now I know, but then I didn't. I kept thinking, well, it must be my fault. I must be doing something wrong. I said, well, what could it possibly be? The clerks all said, we haven't seen a courtroom run this well. You're doing a great job. So what was wrong? Well, when we talk about being first, well, first is not bragging. First tells you that there's something that person's going to have to do. That person has boulders to move. That person is entering the forest of stereotypes, of condescension, of preconceived notions about what you're going to be like if you are going to be smart. Well, you don't enter with them thinking you're going to be smart. It's just the opposite. And so you really have to prove yourself. And, I worked very hard thinking the whole time, oh, it's got to be me. But I'm just sorry that it took many years for me to realize that it was the field that I was on, the field that I had entered. And I never thought in a million years that people would not be fair. I always lived my life to be fair, to level the playing field. But that doesn't mean that that's how you're going to be treated in return. So I said, we have to go. I cannot stay here. This is making me very unhappy. So I said, well, I can go back and be a lawyer. Adam, I would never put up my own shingle. Okay. I wasn't about to do that one. So I started thinking, what can I do? And then it was suggested that from my committee work on the state level, the Judicial Council, there were people there who knew more about the lay of the land of the state and what the governor's office was doing. And so I was told, well, this particular governor really likes to elevate commissioners. Your reputation is really good. You're doing a good job. You're teaching on the state level. Why don't you put your name in? And so I said, okay, that sounds really good. So I had support from the judges on my bench. I don't think they were aware of what I was going through as a commissioner. And so they had no doubts about my performance. And so I got letters of reference from the judges and from people at the state level. And pretty soon my name came down, and I was interviewed by the Jenny Commission, and I did well. And eventually, after a year and a half as a commissioner, then I was appointed a judge of the municipal court. I remember that was 1984. I had just gotten off the bench, and my BLF came back to tell me, the governor's on the phone. I said, yeah, sure. She said, no, I'm not kidding. The governor's on the phone. And so the governor was on the phone. Nowadays, you get the call from the appointment secretary mostly, but the governor was there. He said, I want you to know that I was impressed with your credentials. I don't really appoint very many deputy public defenders. And you're a Democrat, and but I think that you would make me proud, and I think that you would do an excellent job. So I'd like to appoint you to the municipal court. So that was wonderful. And I thought, well, everything is just perfect now. But a few months later, or maybe a year, I don't remember how long, I came up for election. And I didn't worry about it then, but ever since then, every 6 years, yes, I worried about whether I was going to be challenged for election. But within a few months of my appointment, it was election time, and I was up for election. And so there were rumblings. I was taken aside by a few of the judges and said, we think somebody's going to run against you. And so my heart just sank. It felt like a double punch to the stomach, and I didn't even know where to start. Well, the person who was going to run against me was also a friend of one of the judges, and was encouraged to run against me not because I'd done a bad job, not because my work wasn't good, but because they thought I was weak. They thought I had no support behind me. The Black American or African American community was very, very small. And so they figured I was an easy mark, and, they would easily beat me. So it was necessary for me to start an election committee. I had no clue what to do with it, but I had a lot of help. I had a lot of help from instructors at Santa Clara. I had help from the Black community. And I also had help from one particular judge who went out on a limb and called that attorney up and said, are you crazy? Do you know what maybe you can beat her and maybe you can't, but do you know what that's going to do to your reputation? This is a first. I was the second African-American woman judge on the bench. And they said, you do not know what that's going to do to your own reputation if you challenge her. So it was that one judge who made all of the difference with that attorney, because this one judge was very well respected and had been on the bench for a very long time. And his word was like gold. So I was always grateful to him for giving me his support. So that was my first experience. And for the most part on the bench, I was treated very well. I was treated with respect, and I was acknowledged for a job well done. My assignments were good. I don't believe I was held back for any assignments or given less desirable assignments. It may have taken me a while to move out of pretrials and arraignments, but one presiding judge said, I've looked at all the assignments and you seem to be staying in one area. So I think it's time for you to do preliminary examination. So that's going to be your assignment. And that was wonderful. That was somebody looking out for everybody and wanting to treat everybody well. And eventually, I myself was elected presiding judge of the municipal court. And it was an actual election with somebody running against me, and still I was elected by the judges of the municipal court to be their presiding judge. So like Rosanna told you, I also was elected presiding judge of the Santa Clara County Superior Court as the first woman of color to hold that position. So I think I can say that, you know, I've tried to do well, and I've been recognized as doing well, because each time it was an election by my peers. So I just wanted to tell you, even though I had a lot of support, a lot of respect, that there was still things that had to be changed. And when there's not very many of you, it falls to you to do it. Now, one thing I will tell you as a first is that you have an obligation to those coming behind you, because sometimes others are judged by the work that you do. And if you take for granted your duties, you don't prepare over and over again, you're not the best at what you do, it's going to reflect on that second person trying to come behind you, because they're just going to lay that at their feet, that you weren't good, and so they can't be good either. So you have a major responsibility to the people behind you. And I knew that at the time. I mean, it was already my work ethic to do the best that I could, but I also realized that there were very few of us. And so my job performance had to be stellar, and it had to be better than the ones around me. I remember one time as a deputy public defender, I had one assignment, and it meant that I appeared in this one courtroom 5 days a week. And the judge was just the nicest person in the universe. But unfortunately, he didn't listen to me when I talked to him and when I made arguments. Well, that's okay if you want to ignore me, but I have a client to represent. You can't do that. My client deserves to be heard and deserves to have respect. So the more he ignored me, the more persistent I was, the longer I made my arguments, the louder my voice became. And I saw him one time at an event away from court, and he said, you know, you're really nice, but you need to be a little calmer, and you need not to be so argumentative. Well, that conversation went nowhere. I left with my feelings hurt, but it didn't change what I had to do, because until he was ready to listen to me, then I was going to make sure he heard me. And so it made our days together not very pleasant, but my client deserved that. And only one other thing when I tell you about my days as a lawyer, that was when I was a public defender. So I have one that I will never forget when I was in the county counsel's office. And I did LPS conservatorships and probate conservatorships as my first assignment. And so I remember I was appearing opposite somebody that I had worked with before, and I thought we were friends, but I guess the argument got a little heated. And so when the case ended, the judge was still on the bench. The people were still in the courtroom. And the attorney said to me, if you were a guy, I would slap you. And so he waited for me outside the courtroom door. And so I was a little scared. So I told the judge, and I said, Judge, do you hear that? And he said, yeah. I said, he said, well, you let me know if you want me to do anything. He left the bench. So I said, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to fend for myself. How am I going to get out the door? So my clients stayed with me, and we waited for about 20 minutes till we thought he was gone. And then they escorted me to my car so I could get home safely. So that's just a couple of things that happened. But I don't in any way want you to think that I didn't have a great experience as a lawyer and as a judge, because I did. And that's one reason I stayed. And the only reason I was only a lawyer 6 years is because, like I said, if an opportunity arose, I took it. And so that meant if it meant I moved quickly, I moved quickly, and I've never regretted it. I stayed on the municipal court until the courts unified in 1998, and at that time I became a Superior Court judge. The unification wasn't perfect. I mean, it took a lot of growing pains. For instance, the muni court judges had to keep the muni court assignments, except for family. They would let us have family. And then besides that we couldn't be presiding judges. So as the years passed, a nominating committee was consisted of enough people who wanted to change the system. And so they nominated Jamie Jacobs May. So she was the first municipal court judge to become Superior Court presiding judge. She actually broke that glass ceiling, and she made it possible for the rest of us. So like I said, things were good. But one other thing that I wanted to tell you about the Muni Court experience was that at that time, whether it was municipal court or Superior Court, no women had children while they were on the bench. It hadn't happened yet. So since I was 33 when I became a judge, and I was still old to become a parent, I wanted to become a parent. It's still taking me that long, right? I left the public defender's office and it hadn't happened. So anyway, when I was on the municipal court, my husband and I decided, well, we're going to adopt. And so no one had a baby on the bench, and no one had adopted on the bench at that time. And that was pretty much across the state. So when we decided to adopt, then I put in for maternity leave. And so my friends on the bench said, no, first of all, you're adopting. Adopting is not the same, and you don't need to bond with an adopted baby. So we brought the baby home 2 days after she was born. So you had to adopt, you had to bond with your child. So they said, okay, so if you're gonna take maternity leave, then it will be necessary for you to give back your salary, or don't accept your salary, or donate it to charity. I said, well, no, none of those things. That is absolutely wrong. I'm sorry. Luckily for me, when I did discuss it with the presiding judge, it was a whole different story. She said, take your maternity leave, do what you need to do, and then you come back when you're ready. So I took about 3 months off, and it was wonderful. And then the issue came up around the state, and they had a policy that adopting a baby should be treated exactly the same as having a baby. And then, I mean, there were babies everywhere after that. And so it was just normal that women were young, they were going to have babies while they were judges, and they were going to be able to do what every mother should be able to do, and that's be at home with the child. And so was the father. Basically, those are some experiences that I've had coming through. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of my activities off the bench, which made being on the bench so enjoyable, and some of the things I'm very proud of. And Rosanna already mentioned that Santa Clara did award to me last summer an honorary doctorate. And not long ago, the California Judges Association honored me with the President's Award. And that's a selection made by the President of the California Judges. I've had appointments to the Judicial Council to serve on the Judicial Council from the Chief Justices and on the Judicial Council committees. I've served on the Center for Judicial Education and Research, which is also part of the Judicial Council. And I was also appointed by Chief Justice to serve on the Commission on Judicial Performance, which is the commission which investigates and disciplines judges. And I remained on that commission for 8 years, and I served as its chair for 2. I've taught at the California Judges College and the National Judicial College, and I've served on many of our local court committees. This gave me a way to enjoy what I was doing, to continue. It heightened my enjoyment of being a judge. And sometimes your work can be tedious, depending on what assignment you have. And the committee work just added to my enjoyment, which kept me on the bench for 36 years. And I never thought of leaving. I always wondered when people said they were retired, I would say, why would you do that? Why would you leave such a wonderful job? I thoroughly enjoyed it. It gave me a sense of fulfillment and accomplishment. And I also made judges made friends of judges all over the state. So now that you've heard all about me, I wanted to talk about some tips for good lawyering. Not that you need that. I mean, I saw many attorneys as during my time on the bench, and I have to tell you, Santa Clara County has some very fine lawyers, and it's so enjoyable to see lawyers who are professional, knowledgeable of the law, and conversant of the facts, and those make the best lawyers. The fact that I give you tips is only to pass these things along, not that you need it in any way. And I also learned a lot from the lawyers appearing in my courtroom. So there is something that has troubled me that I've seen lately. And I've seen it before, but I guess being in another line of work, you really can see it because you're up close with people and talking to them and seeing what their motivation is. And that is that attorneys have a very powerful tool that they're comfortable with and can use. And that's because it's part of lawyering. And that tool can just destroy another person. That tool is filing a complaint and having the summons served. And for people who have never been sued, who aren't in law, who are in a little mom and pop business, being sued is just devastating, very devastating to them. So it just seems like instead of trying to work out an issue, talk to the person who's made a mistake about the mistake, allowing them to correct it, that instead of doing that, then it's easy to file a lawsuit and they'll do anything they can to make it go away, which means paying for exorbitant damages that they shouldn't pay just to make the case go away. I mean, I've seen that happen even with neighbors and friends. You buy a house and all of a sudden you see that the windows leak. Well, instead of approaching the previous owner and saying, can you make that right? Then you file a lawsuit and that person loses their mind. Or you have, termite damage or the roof is leaking. Those are things sometimes if you just let the other person know, they're willing to fix. And until you really suffer damages, all you need is to have it repaired and not to have to make those repairs yourself. But I've seen more cases come into court where this is a very few people, of course, but it's, in order to increase fees, instead of working it out, there's discovery, there's torturous discovery just to increase fees. And I've seen that. I'm very sad to see it, and I hope that it's a practice. If you know about it, maybe you can help dissuade others from doing that type of thing. But to me, it's a harassing technique and it's a bullying technique. And I hate to say that it's not unusual. Another thing that I've seen in the courtroom, I call the metamorphosis. And that's the complete change in personality. So it's somebody that, I know, I've seen around, talked to, just very nice person, very nice. And then we'll get into the courtroom and it's like, okay, voice is loud, very commanding, very aggressive. And it's like, okay, what happened here? I honestly, this is not the same person that I used to know. And that will catch me off guard just about every single time because I won't be expecting it from the person it comes from. And so after court, just so you know, judges talk to their staff. I would talk to my staff and I said, well, what just happened here? And so I would be reminded the client is behind the attorney. There's an entourage with the client. There's family. And so there is a performance to impress the people behind it. And then I said, oh my gosh, because I would think, what has gone wrong and how did the tenure all of a sudden change? But performing to impress a client, I've always been very, very, very disappointed with that. And just so you know, judges and staff talk a lot. So I'm going to move on to the next point. So if you're disappointed with the judge's ruling, or you're disappointed with the way the judges handled things, and first of all, don't say it at the council table because they're all mic'd now, right? Yeah. So we're going to hear you. I'll probably even hear you. But once I leave the bench and you're not at the council table and there's no mics and you're still talking, the staff hears you. As you can recall from being in the courtroom, the bailiff is close to you, right? I mean, right next to you at the bar. And the clerk is farther away, but they can hear you. And I can tell you, they will always report on what you said. So it's not a good idea that if you need to vent, that you vent in the courtroom, because you're going to be heard. And even for the judges who aren't that well liked, or maybe by people, including staff, they still are protective of their judge, and they will let the judge know whatever they heard. In fact, sometimes when attorneys get into a heated argument in the courtroom, one may say things about the other that are not respectful, but they're not misconduct and they're not totally uncivil. They're just kind of on the line. And then I'll think, well, why you have to continue to work with this person? I mean, you're in the same line of work. Why would you destroy a good working relationship if you have one? And so then my staff would tell me later, they're best friends and they play golf together. I said, really? I said, oh, I'm kind of shocked. So she said, don't worry about it. They're going to be best friends as soon as they walk out the door. So I said, okay. All right. So the next thing I want to tell you about is the importance of listening. It is very important to listen. I know that your cases are going to be well prepared. You know your law, your facts, and all that. But if you're not totally listening to what the other person says, you're going to miss some points that the other person is making, and then not be able to come back when it's your turn to speak. You may come back with where you wanted to be when you were talking, or what you wanted to say, but the judge is hanging on your every word, has heard the other argument, and now the judge wants you to respond to that argument, so the judge knows what to do. The judge is really depending on you to give an answer that is responsive to what the other person just said. I mean, we expect you to know your case and to know the law and to know the statute, but we need you to respond to what the other person just said. And that way, that will help us make the proper rulings. And I want you to know that regardless of how you feel about how a judge rules, the judge wants badly to do the right thing and to make the correct rulings. It's not so much about being reversed. It's just that we're very proud of our work and our work product, and we want to make the right decisions. Also, another thing I wanted to tell you about, I'm watching my time, is some attorneys do attempt to mislead the court. And if that happens and the judge knows that happens, then the next time you come in, the judge is going to remember that, and not so much credence will be given to you or to your arguments, like misrepresenting what a case says, and a lot of times citing a whole string of cases that may tangentially apply, but not really. And so if you say them, be prepared for the judge to take a recess and look them up. And if they don't stand for what you said, then the judge is not going to believe you then or in the future. I know that when you cite cases in your brief, I will read them, and I believe all judges will read them. So then they'll know if you cited a case that sort of, if you stretch it, might have some application. But if it doesn't, then your briefs aren't going to be of any use to the judge in the future. So I know that there's disagreement because I called one of my judge friends before, and that's when you argue in the alternative. And I always think that that's not the best way. Although my friend says, no, I think it's fine when you argue in the alternative because it doesn't mean that you're letting go of the argument that you made at the very beginning. But I always think if you're going to do that, it is acknowledging that there's more than one side, and it is showing that you have some objectivity, which is wonderful. But I think it's better to say that I'm anticipating the argument of my opponent. And so I expect that my opponent may make this particular argument. And if it is made, then this would be my response to it. And I think at least that way the judge knows that you really believe in the argument you put forth. And you're not just throwing it out to say, just pick which one of these you think will work. I'm giving you the ones that I believe in, and I'm also anticipating what my opponent is going to say. Now, as far as writings, we'll start off with, please let me know when it's time for me to start.
Yeah, do you mind if I pop in here for a second?
Okay.
All right, hey everyone. Right now it's 6:28. Judge Pichon has allowed us to. She's willing to stay for extra time, so I just want to let you know. If you have to drop off the call, please feel free to do so. But while we're all here and I have the floor, does everyone mind giving a really big smile really quickly so I could take a screenshot and post this on our Instagram account? And thanks for everyone for giggling for that. I felt kind of awkward asking, but let's go with it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Got it. But yeah, thank you for attending the event. I'm going to stay on here. I know a lot of people will, and but feel free to leave. It's back to you, Judge.
Oh, sorry, I closed it up. You know, I didn't think I could speak for an hour, but it's nice to know. Usually it's a minute, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Okay, so yes, let me just go on for a little while. I was going to talk about emails. Okay, so be careful about your emails because you never know when they're going to be attached to moving papers. First of all caps is never good because it tells the opponent that you're yelling. And whether you mean to be yelling or not, it appears that way when somebody receives an email in all caps. And if your email has derogatory language, bad words, you know, it's not impressive to the judge who reads it. And the judge doesn't form a really high opinion of the person who wrote the email. Another thing is sometimes attorneys can be a little snarky in their moving papers, and that's never impressive, and it's really painful to read. But when your opponent is saying things personally, attacking you personally for something you've said in your own brief, it's very important not to follow suit. Just stick to your objectives. Just stick to what you want the judge to know and the judge to be informed of, but never follow suit. And that includes in the courtroom too. I see it happen too often where one attorney misbehaves a little bit, and then the other attorney to respond does the same thing and worse, and then it deteriorates until, you know, I have to step in and stop it. So it's very important to take the high road, always take the high road, and never, and I know you wouldn't, never follow someone who is taking the argument to a level where it shouldn't be. There was one attorney, I sing his kudos all the time. He was working against another lawyer who kept doing things, misrepresenting, misstatements, things that were truly wrong. And he would ask to approach the bench. We would come to the bench, And he would always start it by saying, I know opposing counsel didn't mean to say that. I know opposing counsel didn't mean to do that. I'm going, are you kidding? So he was the most professional person I ever seen. Every time anything happened like that, he would bring it to the court's attention. We would discuss it, we would correct it, but he never, ever faulted the other attorney. He always said, I know that wasn't intentional, but I am representing a client here. And so I've got to make sure the record is correct. And I have to make sure the jury hears the right thing. So we need to correct it, but I know opposing counsel really didn't mean to do that. So I will never forget that. And he was very, very effective. He was impressive, well-spoken, just the epitome of a great lawyer. And whenever I see him, I remind him of how impressed I was with his presentation and the fact that he could win and he did win for his client, despite all the game playing of the other attorney and never getting the least bit offended by anything that was done. I'm trying to see if I have anything else that I would like to tell you. If you like, if you have any questions, I can answer questions. But there's one last thing, and that's something that I always thought was important for me as a lawyer, for me as a judge, and for me as a public speaker. I mean, you can judge that for yourself. But I always thought it was very, very important to work on public speaking skills. And I used to buy every tape I could find on how to improve public speaking skills. I know I've had to give a number over the years, some to pretty large audiences. And one thing that I learned was that you have to prepare what you're going to say. Don't necessarily have to read. In fact, most people don't like it if you read it. But you practice it over and over and over again so that you're comfortable saying it and you're comfortable speaking it. And it's helpful sometimes to even tape yourself so that you can hear how you sound, or videotape yourself so you can see how you sound. I remember one time I was getting ready to teach a course and I was so nervous, so nervous. It was a course on the state level with judges from all over the state. Well, United States, I did that too. And I videotaped myself and oh my God, I looked so nervous to myself. I said, well, I can't do this. But, it just meant I needed to practice a couple more times and make sure I knew my material. So that really is all that I have. And I would be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, let's open up to the floor first of all, yeah, great.
Oh, thank you.
So let's open up the floor to questions, and y'all remember how it was last time where everyone just one at a time, and Judge, you're able to call on people.
Wait, let me go to my view.
Unless you need some assistance, then
wait, okay, I got the gallery view now, I'm ready. Oh, okay, I see a hand. Claire.
I was wondering if you have any advice on how to point out misrepresentations of the facts in written briefs.
All right, I think it's very fine for you to point out in your brief, in whatever area that is in your brief, that the opponent has said such and such, and you'd like to clarify that and tell me another set of facts. It's when you say, so-and-so is not telling you the truth, is actually lying and has no intention of letting you know what the true facts are. That's when you mess up. But when you say, so-and-so, call it by his name, Mr., Ms., and has represented such and such, I'd like to correct the record. And I have what's necessary to back up what I'm saying. So you just don't want to make it seem like the other person well, you're going to make it seem like it, but you don't want to call them a liar.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Sure. Adam.
So how would you, Do you have any tips for younger and newer attorneys to learn how to become better legal writers? Like, are there any books that we could read, or is it just kind of just read older briefs just to get a feel of it?
Well, there are publications on legal writing, and of course, I don't know if you can audit a course like at a law school on research and writing, because there's several of those. And if they let you audit a course or take it, that is a really good way. And another is to write, to make sure you read other briefs top to bottom, and just to, know your citations and how to cite and those kinds of things. And just, it's important to write, not to avoid an opportunity to write something, but to write as much as you can. And even when it might even help you to continue to brief the cases that you're reading, because that is making you write, and it's making you also cite. So I don't know how many of you are on your own and have to write your own papers, but one thing I learned at JAMS is we're on our own as far as writing. And so I really have to brush back up on my citations, how to cite a case, and when to italicize and when to underline, those kinds of things. But I do love to do research, and I do like to write also. And now I have to do that more than ever, because being an arbitrator, you always have to have a written opinion, a written document. Oh, hi. Let's see. I want to say your name right now. I heard it. Is Grenier? Oh,
Grania, close. It's
Grania.
like
Grania. Hi, Grania.
Hi. So I actually have two questions because I'm greedy. So looking at that, one is a question with what you were saying about your tips for good lawyering, when you were talking about the attorneys having a powerful tool and filing a complaint, and it can be considered bullying and harassment to do that, when a lot of times people just want to make it go away. Being a plaintiff's employment lawyer, a lot of times I spend months trying to work it out or resolve it and say, look, I don't want to go to litigation, but knowing what's going to entail. So how would you kind of address, or a lawyering tip for the other side, for the plaintiff's bar, for to address those who refuse to engage in negotiations or settlement until a lawsuit has been served?
Well, my advice is to go ahead and file your lawsuit.
Okay.
These are for people who just have no idea anything's coming at them. It's just a little mom and pop owner of a house. They never been involved in the legal system, have no idea what to do. And you might as well kill them, if you're going to file a lawsuit. But for you, since you've done everything you can do, it's time for you to file your lawsuit. And
Right.
It's great that you're that considerate, that you've tried to negotiate the case away. But if the other side is unreasonable, you don't have any choice, and it's good for you to use that tool that you have.
Okay. That's what I think. I think I'm very considerate to those I sue. But and my other question is how you're talking. It's so amazing to hear how you were growing up in the era that you did, where racial discrimination was so prevalent at the time, but you as a child didn't really realize that when you were on your road trips, because you just thought it was great, we're having a big meal in the car or doing whatever. Similarly, but not to the same level, with COVID nowadays, a lot of people, you keep hearing the children, like they're suffering. So, but looking at how you were unaware, how do you recommend, or do you even have any thoughts about the children will navigate this fine? They're going to think it's great. They didn't have to go to school or whatever. Or I'm just kind of curious on your thoughts about that.
Well, I can only go by on my family, because they're children and they're teachers in the family, and what I've seen on the news. This is a little bit different because the students are impacted on their freedom to go to school, to be with other kids, and they have to learn in a totally different way that maybe all of them can't learn that way. I know for my niece, who's a teacher, well, this has been a horrible experience for her. She loves being with people. She loves being in the classroom, but being cooped up at home, trying to teach on Zoom or whatever the virtual platform is, it's been very, very hard for her. So while my parents could shield me from how I felt about my experiences, these kids are directly impacted by sitting in front of a screen, trying to learn by themselves, and hopefully their parents can help them. So has an individual impact on each child, and it depends on how they learn and their ability to learn in this way. I don't think they can help but feel the impact of this.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, this is Jaya. No, Jaya. Hi.
Jaya.
Jaya.
Hi.
I should remember that. I'm very sorry.
It's okay. I know it's been a while. I wanted to thank you for being here. I always love seeing your face and I never have good questions to ask, but I'm going to try. I wanted to follow up on Adam's question. How do you recommend that we become a better writer? What do you recommend we do to become better at public speaking? I'm trying to work on my courtroom demeanor and saying less ums and ahs. That's how to say So do you have any tips?
Well, what I was told, and I never did it, but it was a judge friend of mine who English is her second language. Plus, I believe, I can't talk about somebody being shy, but she describes herself as shy, and her husband describes her as shy. So her husband, who guided her a lot through her life because she came over from Germany all by herself on a boat, he told her to go to Toastmasters, and she did. And she became a deputy district attorney in court every day. She said that helped her tremendously, helped her to leave out the ums and the ohs and the ahs, and helped her to think on her feet so that she could continue a line of thought without having to pause, without having to say to allow her to think of what she was going to say. And it allowed her flexibility with her thinking so that she could answer a question on the spot. So she highly recommends an organization like Toastmasters, and there's others like that. Now, my attempts to speak well, I always, I bought tapes. I bought video. They were at the time audio tapes because that's what was out at the time. And I just purchased every one I could find. If I saw one advertised somewhere, I bought it, and I practiced what they said to do. As far as writing skills, I'm not sure if NEDA has a course on writing. I know they have. NEDA is also a great organization. That one teaches you advocacy skills, how to carry yourself in the courtroom, how to make arguments. That's a great program also. I don't know if they have anything on writing, but like I said, pay particular attention on other people's writings, and you'll be able to see what's best for you and what's most effective writing when you read other people's writings. And I just wouldn't hesitate to contact one of the junior community colleges or college to see what kind of writing programs they have. And you want to be able to write legally, so you might just try the law schools first.
Thanks. For public speaking, someone once told me, just talk slower. And I've tried doing that, but then I lose my train of thought because I know my thoughts are running at 100 miles an hour, and my words are only going at 50, and it gets all messed up. So
you're thinking faster.
Thank you so much.
Talking. Well,
I think 4 weeks ahead, and we're still here in this moment. So.
Well, Jaya, I haven't noticed, so you sound fine to me.
Oh, thank you. You haven't seen me in the courtroom yet, Judge. I don't know if you will.
Okay.
If you'd have to come all the way back to family court, and then we'll see.
So I have another question. Then Jay brings up a really good point, especially with COVID-19. I know a lot of the newer attorneys aren't able to just sit into court hearings and listen more experienced attorneys speak in front of judges. So, what are some good suggestions you have for us to try to get that type of experience in different ways?
The courtroom experience.
Either watching more experienced attorneys go through the hearings, or just picking up those skills. Yeah.
I think the courts are going to be open by next year, and you should be able to get in. And if you have time to sit in and listen, I think that's a good idea. And what I was always told was right before an argument that I had to make, if I wasn't familiar with the judge, just to go sit in and observe the court proceedings so that you know what it's going to be like when you are there. Now, as far as COVID, I don't know what to suggest because you don't have the opportunity to go sit and listen. So I would just, if NITA offers a course online or by Zoom or on a virtual platform, I would take it because it is that important. But after COVID is over, and I think that we should be done in another 6 months, I hope, then I think it's important to go sit in a courtroom and observe. And the same thing with the Court of Appeal, because that's oral argument. And I think that's a great place to hear attorneys with a lot of experience and who are very good at their work, making arguments to the court. And then to hear the justices speak also when they do their questioning. And sometimes when they ask a question, they put a lot of words into their question. So it's good to hear them speak also. But continuing education is always a good thing. And I would certainly check with the State Bar and see what they have to offer.
Hey, everyone, don't be shy. There's a lot of family attorneys in here. This is time to get the insider information.
Danielle.
I'm curious how you dealt with the judge who questioned your demeanor earlier. You spoke of how he kept interrupting you. He already kind of made up his mind about how he was going to decide. Did you try a case in front of him again? How did you deal with him or people like him?
I was still in front of him every day after that. He, like I said, was the nicest person in the universe. He just chose not to listen when I made an argument. But like I said, I just continued on and would find some other words to use or another way. Or I wanted to apologize to him after we didn't work together anymore, because I know it was tough for him too, because I was insistent that he hear what I had to say. And I wasn't going to stop talking, and I wasn't going to leave the courtroom because, like I said, it wasn't just about me. It was about the client that I represented. And I just wanted to make sure he knew how important it was to hear what my client needed to have said. And eventually it wore him down. And I think it helped because one of my opposing counsel, DA, was very, we were friends. And so I think it helped the judge to see that we had a good working relationship. And it helped the judge to understand, since the other attorney had so much respect for me, that maybe I might be saying something worthwhile. I mean, there's been lots of things like that, but you just keep trying to find a different way, but you never give up. I mean, the only time I wanted to leave a difficult situation was, as I told you, as a commissioner. But any others, I just had to find a way to get through it and make it work. And it meant not being angry and upset, because once you're angry or upset, then you can't think anymore. So you have to remain calm. And another thing I found for people who are really difficult to get along with is if you, during your conversations, can just put a smile on your face. It's totally disarming. And the person comes down 100 degrees if they see a smile on your face.
So I have a question. This is actually something that Jaya brought up in one of our meetings this week. When do you know, as an attorney, when it's a good time to make a move? You talked about like I took opportunities. Do you just wait for the opportunity? You seek out opportunities at every chance you get, or what is your advice regarding that?
Okay, it's never been my advice to follow what I did, because I think it's important to have goals. And I think it's important to aim for something. When there's something that you really want, I think you should go for it. You should know what you have to do to get there, know what's going to be involved when you get there, as much as you can by doing your research. But if you just wait for opportunities, well, you don't know if they're coming. And for me, it happened quickly. And that probably was because where I was at that time in the universe. And things are very different now. And so I would always try to decide what it is I'd like to do, or not just one thing. And I would work toward that by knowing what's entailed and what's going to be involved when you get there. That is so important, because when you set goals for yourself in your subconscious, you're going to work toward it. You may not even know that you are, but you will be leading yourself to where you want to get. So it's important to know where you'd like to be, so that you will consciously work toward it, and subconsciously you'll gravitate that way. Yeah, I have been very fortunate in accepting opportunities and not doubting them, but also I think it's wonderful to know what it is that you would like to do.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that, so every month we always have a barristers happy hour, but we also meet at the Municipal Rose Garden to have a coffee in the park. And that is something that comes up a lot, is, you know, obviously we're all hardworking attorneys. We love what we do. And one thing is we're all trying to get to the next level. And
Right.
you know, that's why we're all coming together to have our big group think, and bringing people like you in here to help us out. So we really appreciate it.
Well, I can't tell you how important it is that you have a group like this, and that you do have each other, and you will support and help each other get where you'd like to be.
Does anyone have any other questions? I think I can think of a couple more, and they all have to do with career building, and also kind of just planning for the future. You know, you were part of the Barristers Club back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, what's one thing that you would like to see come out of this Barristers committee, especially because you've seen the influence that newer attorneys can have with the bar over in San Mateo County. That Barristers group actually was able to, I don't want to say push the bar, but influence the bar to come out with a statement against racism and misogyny, and you know, everything that was happening in support with the BLM movement last summer. You know, what types of things could you see this Barristers group accomplishing, or what type of things would you like to see us moving towards?
It depends on how the Barristers Committee sits with the larger bar association. I don't know what kind of input you have until with the direction that the bar is proceeding in. What kinds of things does the Barristers group do at this time?
So it's funny you say that. We've actually been a very sleepy committee over the past few years. And so the group that you're seeing here, this is actually mostly the inaugural group who's decided to give this thing a little kick in the butt, and to really start getting something good going. So that's, and just to let you know about how we sit with the big bar.
Yeah.
We have one seat on the big bar's board, and we also have another member in this group, Grania. She is the head of the Women in Law Committee. So we have two barristers who are sitting on the board. So we have a little bit of push.
That's great. Well, my suggestion is to take a look at the community and see what the needs of the community are at this time. It could be related to COVID. It could be related to diversity and inclusion. It could be related to the schools, and see which direction the barristers would like to go in. And then I ask for support from the greater group, or ask the greater group to go into this with you. But definitely look at what the community needs, because the community does need a lot. And if it's giving advice, being available for legal advice to the community, or presenting different little seminars to members of the community or different groups in the community, those things are all very important. Everybody wants information, especially in areas like wills and probate, to know what the various ordinances are. The vehicle code is very important. Family. So all those things are happen to people every day, and they'd like to know about, and finding a way to present information to the community is great.
That's actually the seminars is what rung a bell right now, because I think we could hit some of the public speaking, we could hit some of sharing our knowledge with the communities, and just kind of notoriety is never our main goal, but it's always helpful when people like, oh, the barristers, that's a good group of people.
Yep, that's good.
Are there any more questions?
I do have one question, Judge. So as a young attorney, I do find it difficult sometimes to find a mentor or even identify someone who can potentially be a mentor. You did mention in your experience, and you met a lot of good people, and you believe that you got a lot of support and help. So I guess, like, what's your advice to young and new attorneys about finding a mentor, and if we can identify someone that potentially can be a good mentor, how do we approach that?
I think the first place to start would be with the Bar Association, indicating to your president that a mentorship program would be wonderful. They had what was called the incubator program. I don't know if it went away or if it's still there. It was helping new attorneys start their practice. But as far as mentorship program, I think that's an excellent thing for the bar to take on if they're not doing it at this time. I know they used to. And we used to always talk about the importance of having a mentor, especially when the new admittees were being sworn in. We always talk about the importance of having a mentor. So I would say to your CEO and also to your president that it's important to have a mentorship program. And I'm surprised if they don't have one, but it's extremely important. And it's the support that new attorneys have to have. It's not just a luxury, it's something that new attorneys must have. But as far, Helen, and until they actually set one up, if they don't have one, then are you in a single person law firm?
No, actually, my law firm is like mid to large size. We do have 10 attorneys in total. So I do get a lot of guidance from the partners, but I just feel like sometimes I would like someone outside of my firm to give me more guidance, right? Like, you feel more comfortable talking to them. And also, like, the partners are generally just very, very busy. They want to give more guidance, but they don't have that capability.
That's an excellent point. In fact, I remember saying that in a prior speech, that it's important to have a mentor in your firm, somebody who can help you navigate, but it sounds like you don't need one. But it's also important to have a mentor outside of the firm so that you can say the things you need to say. You can talk about the things you want to talk about without it having any effect on your position at your law firm. So I would look to your president and your CEO and say, I'm looking for a mentor. And then the bar has so many connections with the judges and other experienced attorneys. I don't think it would be difficult at all if you want a mentor to have one.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My favorite external mentor right now is on this Zoom, and her name is Clara. I think she might be taking on additional mentees.
That's great.
She approached me at a women in law event at Santa Clara University 3 days after I passed the bar exam. And she said, I'm new here, you're gonna do family law, let's talk. And we've been friends ever since. So Helen, I encourage you, maybe just walk up to somebody and be like, let's be friends, or LinkedIn message.
Huh. Yeah, that is a way to do it. Yeah, that's a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had someone who I was actually very close with, who had extensive experience in family law practice, but she moved away. She moved to San Diego, and we met up pretty frequently before COVID, but with the COVID, it's just really hard.
It is hard with COVID. It's hard to do so many things.
All right, well, I think that's gonna wrap it up. So Judge Pichon, we really appreciate your time. And everyone, yeah, let's another round of applause.
Well, it's truly my pleasure, truly.
We'll put you on the mailing list.
Okay, and thank you for asking me. Thank you so much.
And absolutely, and everyone else, I just want to remind you that we have an event coming up. We have a coffee in the park, and I need to look at my calendar to remember the date. I believe it is on the, didn't write on my calendar, but I wrote it in the agenda. So I will make sure I send that out to everyone with the minutes. So thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Claire.
On the 20th.
All right, Madam Vice President, I appreciate that. So everyone, we have a coffee in the park at the San Jose Municipal Rose Garden on March 20th at 11 a.m. So remember, bring a chair, bring a snack, bring a drink. And I'll see y'all later. Everyone, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Your Honor.